Welcome to Creatives Grab Coffee, the podcast on the business of video production.
Creatives Grab Coffee is hosted by Dario and Kyrill Lazarov from Labs Productions. Our goal is to share knowledge and experiences from video production professionals around the world. Whether you're a freelancer looking to start your own business or a seasoned business owner aiming to scale your company, this is the show for you.
Join us as we develop a community of like-minded creatives looking to learn and help each other grow. Welcome to the business of video production. Welcome to Creatives Grab Coffee.
Before we get started with the show, let's go over today's sponsors.
Do you have a shoot in Toronto? Do you need crew or a strong production partner to help you with your project? Labs Productions is one of the top production companies in Toronto and your go-to video partner.
With our strong creative skills and extensive network, we can help you achieve your goal. Labs Productions is able to offer you production services, white label services, or finder fees for project handoffs.
Reach out to us on our website at lapsproductions.com to learn more.
My name is Miran. Welcome to Canada Film Equipment. We are a boutique rental house based in Toronto. We are here to help you guys out with all production sizes. Feel free to contact us to get a quote if you are a production house and you're looking for lighting, camera packages, or lighting and group fan packages. You can see our contact information in the link below. We are more than happy to help you guys out. Make sure you follow and subscribe to creativesgrabcoffee.com. Thank you.
Hey, what's up, everybody? I'm Matt. Welcome to Audio Process. We are a boutique audio company doing location sound design, post-sound, ADR, Foley. We service equipment. We do all your audio needs here in Toronto. We got you covered. Come on down, audioprocess.ca. Don't forget to like, follow, subscribe, and all of the other internet things to creativesgrabcoffee.com. They'll be waiting for you. I'll be waiting for you, and we're all going to have a real good time.
And now, let's begin the show.
Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Creatives Grab Coffee. Today we got Anthony Darvill from 77 Productions. Anthony, good to have you.
Dario, Kyrill, great to be on your podcast.
So, in tradition of all the other episodes we've done, let's just start with a backstory on yourself and your company.
Right, so backstory is during COVID, when Melbourne, Australia was one of the most locked down cities in the world, I was consulting, doing a lot of this video conferencing things, and I was consulting in sales operations and bringing up 2 young kids. And as we came out the back end of that, I felt like it was time to go and press the flesh again, meet face to face and get out and do more things. My kids were settling into school. I thought I'd better go get a real job, because at the time I was sort of working 3.5, 4 days a week. And I picked up a job as a general manager at an advertising agency in Melbourne that had 4 pillars. And one of those pillars was video. And my remit was to really look at the video arm, which was trading as 77 Productions, as a separate arm, and basically divest it. And by divest it, I mean transfer all the employees over onto their own employment agreements under a new entity, tease out all the vendors, suppliers, customers, put it on its own CRM, set up its own financial package, grow it and sell it. You've got 4 years, see how you go. And about 8 months later, the dynamics and the company position changed, and they pivoted and they thought we should probably axe the video part. So it was a bit of a rescue. I'll save it. So I bought it in a management buyout with my business partner at the time, and we set it up and we ran it ourselves, and I stopped working for that advertising agency. So focusing far more on the production side, less the digital marketing and design side. And that was in September 2023, which brings us to today. And I'm really excited about the plans we've got for 2025.
It's very rare. We haven't really seen someone that has bought a video production company before. I think you're one of the first people we've had on the show that did that.
Yeah, you might wonder, like, why would you just set one up yourself? And I think it's a fair question. 77 had been around for over 10 years when I bought it, and had quite a bit of equity, some brand equity. It had, I think, it done business with 2,600 people. There was quite an extensive contact list. There was some history. There was some credibility. There's some awards that we had won on a program here in Australia called the Gruen Transfer, which looks into video marketing and the psychology behind that. And they have this section on it called the pitch, where they get two advertising companies to compete against one another to sell the unsellable. And one of the ideas that they had was they'd get us to make a video about how we could justify eating our nationally protected animals. and we came up with this video called Koala Masala.
Oh, wow.
Why does that sound good?
It does sound really good.
Not sure. I haven't eaten koala before. I've eaten a few different Australian animals, but not koala. But it had this jingle, and it went down really well. And I recall the host of the show months and months later saying that was one of his all-time favourite pictures. So there's a number of things that 77 had going for it that I saw value in, above and beyond starting up a video production company from scratch.
So with them choosing to axe the video production company, was it kind of like something that it's like they put the company on the market and were letting people kind of bid on buying it? Or was it something you thought to yourself and you came up with the idea with your business partner and approached them? It's like, hey, since you're no longer going to be running this company, can we just buy the rights to it and just use it as like a separate arm? Was that kind of your thinking or approach, or like how did you go about it?
Correct. It was more the latter. So the position I was in was, okay, make your staff redundant. You're okay. I've got a job for you. You can stay in the agency, and we can redefine your role. And by that stage, I'd put so many things in place, and I had a vision for it, and I could see it being a success. So I offered to buy it in somewhat of an unconventional way. I actually met with the owner at the pub one night, and we sat there and we were talking about, I think I had about 10 questions for him, and they were all about, have you considered this? Could we try this? Just to extend the runway a little bit longer. And my 10th question was, what if I buy it? And he sort of put his beer down and he looked at the ceiling and he thought, well, I guess I'd only want... And he was about to say a number. And he's looking at the ceiling. And I'm going, oh shit, I didn't even think I was going to be asking that question. I better come up with a number really quickly in my head before I'm influenced by him anchoring first. So I came up with a number here. He came up with a number down here. So, oh, that's interesting. And then we negotiated through a works in progress balance. Obviously, when you've got projects on the go, they need to transfer. So you need to sort of compare where the projects are in terms of their delivery timeline and effort compared to what they've paid. Have they paid a deposit or nothing? Or a progress payment? Is it fully paid? And how does that compare with where they are in the production process? And you go through all the list of projects and you come up with a balance. So after that balance, his number, my number, balance paid, deal done.
Do you have a background in video production?
Not a strong one. In audio production, yeah. I was a sound engineer for Platinum Records in London back in the noughties, the 2000s. I've pursued audio production my whole life. If I flick my camera around, can I do that? Audio.
Sure,
this is our post-production desk. Got all EQs and delays and preamps and compressors and there's a cloud above me. This is a highly treated room.
For
So
people
it's
that are
audio
listening
studio.
to this podcast, he's just showing us his studio space.
Yeah, there's a lot of audio-centric gear that is
Yeah.
present.
A lot of knobs.
A lot of audio-centric
and
gear and
whistles.
a lot of baffling as well. And I've got like bass traps in the corner and broadband absorbers flanking to the side, a diffuser at the back. So acoustically, this room is set up to be a mixing and post-production sound room. And that's been my history. I had a side hustle doing a lot of audio production, and in that side hustle, I built a web page with some videos on it to sell my services, and people started asking me, "Oh, who did that video?" And I'd hand drawn some of these illustrations and got them animated. They were very basic, but people sort of latched onto them. I think in playing with my camera, I may have just.
It's okay.
Yeah, no, it's looking good. One thing I was actually curious about, because when it comes to ownership changes in any kind of company, yeah, you purchase the company and now it's yours. You have the track record, the portfolio, the past clients. What was that transition like in terms of, basically almost like re-signing your clients almost in a way? Because typically when you have a production arm that's part of an ad agency, it's a lot of ad agency work being fed directly to the production company. So it's very synonymous with that ad agency. Was it like an easy transition for you with your current clients, or did you lose some? Did you gain some? What was that like?
Well, Kyrill, before you ask that, I'm just curious, was the original owner of that production company still there? Or not anymore?
No. So they
No,
stayed
no,
with they stayed with the advertising agency,
Oh, okay.
Right.
and the video part was carved out and put in its own entity. So it's a different commercial entity. So it was an asset sale rather than a company sale. I didn't buy the company shares. And I think that's an important point, even though it sounds like a detail. If any of your viewers are going down that path or consideration, at least in Australia, if you buy shares and it's a company share sale, you also buy all its legacy. So if there's any risk or problems or recourse, closets, skeletons in the closet, they could come out and affect the way your business performs in the future. In an asset sale, you're just transferring the assets from one entity to the other.
So it was like its own entity essentially, and you were able to just it's like chopping off that arm, and it's like that's your arm now, basically.
That's right. Yeah.
I don't know if that's a good analogy, but you know what I mean.
And Kyrill, I thought that was a really good question, and it's a bit of a mixed bag in terms of how the clients transferred over. Some of them, like with rolling projects, it's just you're communicating with them on a regular basis, so it's just a conversation. And by the way, the next invoice is coming from this entity. Can you please make sure that the bank details are updated accordingly? So very sort of smooth and natural transition. Did we lose clients? Yeah, we stopped getting the work from the advertising agency that we were getting, but it was the wrong type of work. Because the agency owned the video arm, it was able to put a lot of downward pressure on costs, and to be able to continue on a new precedent, this is where I see our value. It just didn't work. So that freed up a lot of the opportunity costs to go and pursue different types of work, different types of clientele. And we've gone from working with small, medium businesses, a lot of mum and dad owners, maybe small franchises at best, through to international organisations like KPMG. So it's been a real win.
Kyrill, is there anything you want to ask in that area? Because I kind of want to go and talk about the like how you put a value on.
Yeah, I mean, I think he pretty much summarized it, and it seems like it was a pretty straightforward like transition, and it makes sense what you're saying about the ad agency work that was coming from them. There tends to be like a lot of like probably like kind of like quick one-off smaller type things that obviously they might need to kind of help smooth over like a bigger project on the agency side. And it definitely made sense for you, like in terms of what you said, where that was the wrong kind of work for you guys, because it would be like very demanding work, but without much payoff. And once you start quantifying things as a production company, you start figuring out what your baseline costs are that you need to cover for any project you take on, right? And when you're working with like in collaboration with certain agencies or anything like that, they might try to like send volume and try to get like deals on some stuff in a way. But yeah, I think you covered it perfectly. I know Dario had another thing to add after.
No, but no,
really interesting.
Oh yeah,
go
you
ahead.
were going to say something?
Yeah, go.
A little bit more color in there. The dynamic just makes sense. The agency is giving the video. They're paying the staff.
Mm-hmm.
They're paying the rent. A lot of those fixed costs you were talking about are being paid by under the umbrella. So when they say, "Can you do this?" It's not a paid job. What I started doing was thinking, okay, well, what is this worth? Even though we might not even though the video arm might not be being attributed a certain defined revenue dollar, what is it really worth in the market? And on the flip side, what are all the costs? What are all the things that we're getting looked after that we should be paying for? So I'd been keeping a bit of a run sheet of that balance. I don't know if the previous owner knew that I was doing that, but it's part of my job to make sure it's viable. So I sort of had a handle on what those costs were and what they could be and what the attributable revenue should have been, and saw an opportunity.
I kind of wanted to explore putting value on a video production company, because we have a lot of people that have been guests or that we know that are trying to prepare their company to be able to sell it in the future. So do you have any recommendations for them in terms of how they should prepare for that? Like in terms of what a potential seller, potential buyer is going to be looking for in that company?
Yeah, look, I think in this day and age, one of the key things that every company is after is recurring revenue. So the value of a retainer or any sort of recurring revenue model that's in the business is a good one to look at. Failing that, a lot of video production companies don't have a recurring business model. So I think there probably needs to be a good understanding of what is the likelihood of repeat work. And perhaps there might be opportunities to have discussions with past clients or survey past clients, maybe an NPS of their propensity to recommend them as a video production company might also reflect on whether or not they would use the video production company again. Those sort of the stickiness of old clients, I think, is a big part. For me, I saw quite a lot of value in the video library. So the thousands of productions that have been done by 77 over the years, people want to know, like, okay, you've pitched an idea. I like it. Have you done it before? Can I see it? It makes your service, even to a new client, far more sellable. Proof is in the pudding. We've done it before. Here it is. We can do it again and make it better for these reasons. It might be technology or a better idea or using better equipment, or we not only can meet this, we can exceed this. And that gives the prospect confidence.
Right. So yeah, when when it comes to like putting it together, all the different values, it was interesting that that you focused on also the portfolio as an aspect of it, because what a lot of people who are looking to purchase a company a lot of the time is looking for, like you said, the consistent revenue, the client base, the what is the frequency of work with each client. Is really hard to measure that a lot of the time if there is no like contracted recurring work, because it always varies, and it's like that's why a lot of people opt to just open up their own shop, because it's a lot easier and cheaper to start. But obviously then there comes the challenge of, all right, you start a new shop, nobody knows who you are, you don't have a portfolio, you have nothing to work with. And like Dario and I know from experience that that could be very tricky in the very beginning. But now in terms of portfolio, like I guess that would be more of like a subjective way to kind of everyone might have a subjective viewpoint on how to put a dollar value on a portfolio, because it's like, what do you do? Like, do you add like $1,000 per video that's in the portfolio, or 10,000, you know, or like how do you measure quality versus quantity? Like, I guess it's just a matter of negotiation, I guess, would you say? Like, or is there no set formula?
There's probably not a set formula, or if there is, it's probably going to vary for different people. But you're right. There's probably videos in the library that decrease the value. Like there's some clangers back there from from eight or they're just not standing the test of time. I can't use them again. At best, I could use them as a throwback Thursday social post. Look, this this video's 10 years old, hasn't aged well, and have a bit of a laugh and some humility about it. But that's a really good point. How do you value some of these things? Like when you talk about goodwill, it's a big part of a brand. How do you value that? Is there a formula for it? Eesh, that's a really tricky one.
Yeah, I think it might be a matter of what someone might be willing to pay for it, also in terms of what they can actually use to spring them forward. Because the other flip side of using a company's past portfolio, if none of those key creatives or people who were involved are still a part of the business, it might be difficult to place a high value on that portfolio, because there might be pieces in there that are beyond your scope as well. Like, say for example, you bought the company and then there was like a series of 5 animation type videos that were great pieces of work that had one creative director on it, but because that creative director is no longer part of the company, you can't really do that same type, like maybe the same type of work, but not maybe that particular style or quality. So it's like, what are you promoting going forward at that point, right? So I guess that might be one big factor, is personnel that are retained within the company if you're keeping it. Is that correct? Did you retain any key employees or staff, or did you just by yourself took it with your business partner?
No, we brought across all the staff. So there was an editor, 2D animator, 3D animator. We've never really done DOPs. Infrastructure. Yeah. DOPs is an interesting one. We've never really hired them because on a full-time basis, because some people are good at flying drones as well, or really good at interviewing behind the camera and directing, or they have a particular type of gear that we're trying to use to capture a particular vibe. And you'd love to employ them all, but it's just not realistic. So we didn't have a DOP, but creative. We had a creative director and a production manager. And then where we needed to, we'd scale up teams for special skills outside of that as freelancers or contractors.
So it was more of a turnkey solution where you already had an infrastructure that you were purchasing as well, not just the name, not just the portfolio, like people and staff and a whole system of processes that you are already built in. You were purchasing that so that once you basically took over the company, you're still able to start operating immediately. It's not like you take the name but you have to now start to figure out your own process. You have to start figuring out. It's not like you're not going to improve on it or change it to what you have, but at least you weren't starting from scratch, right? So I guess that's where the value is as well. It's like, what would be the startup costs of basically trying to start the company from scratch. You know, you avoid that, and that is something you might be purchasing, right?
Yeah, that's right. Really good point. I think one of the other things that you might consider in terms of value is what's the equipment valued at. I mean, that's probably an easier one to do. But a lot of video production equipment can be very expensive. So we had a sort of funny conversation, the seller and I, because there was a bunch of video equipment in the warehouse, and we didn't really know it was there, and neither of us really cared because it wasn't getting a lot of use anyway. And it was sort of like, oh, can you do an inventory? And it's like, oh, no one was interested in it. But we did it eventually, and were able to get a pretty accurate value. But that's at least that's something that's quantifiable. But I think a lot of how do you value a website? Well, that website might have cost $15,000 to build 4 years ago. How's it performing though? What's it look like now? And is it still worth that? What's it going to cost to update or replace? They're all really sort of grey areas that you play in, I think, when you're trying to value a business.
I'm just wondering, now that you do have this business, like, let's say in the future you want to sell it, what are some of the things that you learned by buying it and owning it that you would do to prepare it for sale later on?
Yeah, that's going to really push me well into the future. I don't have any exit plans on the horizon. I think setting up systems and processes so that the operation can continue. So documenting the production process, for example. We tend to take a pretty unique approach to the way we engage with clients, and that's not an easy thing to document. It's not an easy thing to teach, but I think getting those systems and processes in place is really important. I think making sure, like the data around your clients, having up to date and accurate data, is really important, because you're able to remarket and fill that funnel and make sure that your website's converting.
What do you mean by data? Can you expand on that a little bit?
Just customer data. Making sure that's rock tight. You don't want to be advertising to people at email addresses that are no longer there, and just being wasteful, or you need to be able to show your potential buyer that your audience is current, engaged, active. Your website is converting well. That your leads that are coming in off your website are of the right type, the right profile. There's a good product market fit, and they're of high value, and that there's some recurring nature, even though it might not be contractually recurring. I think to be able to say, look, this client's made 8 videos with us over the last 3 years. It's not a contract, so it's hard to sort of do the old SaaS model. Okay, 3 to 5x, that's the value of the company. But it gives the buyer confidence that customer is going to come back, and that you've looked after them and you've done a good job.
Yeah, it's more so kind of like you're creating these different customer profiles or client profiles to let the buyer know, are they active with you right now, or were they active with you like a year or two later? Or here's like a client that comes once a year because they have this event. Like we all have different types of clients depending on what their needs and goals are. But I'm curious, mainly, once you took over the company, what was like one of the first things you changed, or one of the biggest changes you made, or did you make any changes?
Yeah, we made a lot of changes. Probably the fastest and biggest change was to lose our commercial lease. We were leasing a building which was a very sort of, it was almost like a corporate office environment with, you know, the false ceilings and the fluoro lights. I cannot tell you how much our animators hated the lighting. And what I learnt was that animators like to, well, they're very subjective about how they want their room lit, and it makes sense. Like they're doing very detailed, focused work, and they're in a time warp. They're so focused. That also had that the nature that if you needed to talk to them, you pull them out. The context switching that causes for them to get back into the 20-second layer on a really complicated animation. That was a big cost to the business. So not just the leasing costs, but the disruption costs, and that they preferred to work from home under their soft, well lit lights and rooms, without the context switching and me distracting them.
Yeah, no ant like hovering over their shoulders, and you're like, "Hey, is the edit done? Is the edit done? The client needs it like right now. Come on, where is it? Let's go."
Yeah, I remember one of my staff commenting that I can't remember exactly what she said, but it was a favourable comment about having me as a boss, and I was like, "Oh, that's interesting. Why is that?" She said, "Oh, at my last place, my boss used to be over my shoulder the whole time." Asking those sort of questions, and why aren't you doing that? And it's definitely not my style. But I mean, the output of a production it speaks for itself. And you know, if we can keep to the production timelines and the quality's good, why not work from home the vast majority of the time? We'd still meet up every week. We're sort of pulling together on Wednesdays to work together for at least half a day, and we try and park a lot of those conversations that would come up that were important but not urgent for a Wednesday hangout. Have some lunch. If there was still more to do in the afternoon, sure, we could kick on. Otherwise, they'd go back to their tools and their creativity.
So you went from being a consultant for that agency to then buying the video arm. I'm just wondering, what are some of the things you learned now owning a production company?
Good question. Just a slight clarification. I was consulting up to the point I became a general manager. So I was actually employed by the agency.
Oh, right. Okay.
So, but I might have confused the story there. Sorry, Dario. What have I learnt? I've probably learnt a lot about the importance of documenting agreements, not letting anything sort of remain in verbal land. Verbal contracts are still contracts, but they're really hard to enforce if someone wants to go back on them. Also being really clear about the key sticking points in the terms and conditions. One of the things that really has been difficult to manage with some projects is projects that go long. Every week that a project goes more than our standard production time, which is probably around 6 to 8 weeks now, it's just costly. And I think just explaining what the terms are in the pitch process as well. You know, we expect the reviews to happen in 2 business days. You get reviews on scripts, you get reviews on storyboards, you get reviews on videos. Let's keep that to a 48-hour business hour turnaround time. And if we get ghosted for a certain amount of time, then you might have to pay a restart fee and sell it in like that.
I like the restart fee. That's a good one.
Yeah.
And then document it. And remind them again, thanks. Then you have your kick-off meeting. Here's what we've discussed. This is what we're up to. This is the agreement. Say it again. then send off the first script for review. Have this back in 2 days. As you know, just really drill it in. And the clients that I've done that with, having learnt the hard way, they're so good to work with, and we have a really good working relationship. And it doesn't feel great to focus on terms and conditions. You're a creative human being, and that's the process that we're really trying to get involved in. It seems to, in my mind, at least in the past, be a little bit opposed to that. But you get a really clear working agreement, you just get such, much better results. Get engaged clients.
When you spell out your terms and conditions, or like basically the barriers that you want to work within early on when you're talking to leads and clients, then you're going to attract those types of clients that are willing to work with you with your process, right? I feel like many production companies have sometimes the challenge where, I mean, sometimes you will still communicate that, but clients will still take a while to get their feedback in. A lot. This is more common with with corporate type clients. We've noticed, like, that's where a lot of these particular challenges happen, because they need to get so and so's approval. Then it has to get checked by a few different people and everything like that. But it's what we've learned is that what works for some clients is not going to work for all clients in terms of at least when it comes to feedback. You can do your best, but as long as you communicate to them, it's like, hey, if we don't get feedback within the certain timeline, we won't be able to meet certain deadlines. They will understand that. They'll just take longer to get back to you. But I do like your idea of putting in incentive costs, where if it takes like 3 months to get back to you, then it is a restart fee, because you're basically starting up the project again. Because Dario and I have had several clients where they're great people to work with, and we've worked with them for many years, but sometimes it just takes them a month maybe to get back to you on a first draft, or sometimes unforeseen things that take them off of your project. They have to deal with something else. And like, how do you go about those conversations with those types of clients? Because it obviously varies sometimes.
Yeah, great question. I think it comes down to deal structure. How do you actually structure the engagement to protect yourself? You've sold it in at $80,000. Great. Is that going up? No. Is it going down? Well, they probably would be happy to hear that, but you're not going to do that. So you've got this fixed income for the project. Then you have all these variables that you need to control. So, for example, you sell in 22 90-second videos to a large global consulting firm, and then the videos turn out to be longer. They're going to take longer to animate. They've probably got longer scripts, so your voiceover costs might go up. I mean, they're small things, but if you can build that into the deal structure, and what I do is I provide some leniency. Say about 90 seconds. What's 10% between friends? But then if you get a big differential, there's a cost to that.
Do you do like contingency planning, or contingency pricing as well? Like because if it's like a big project like that, you could also, I'm guessing, say, hey, just in case, we could set aside this amount if we go over, so they have some wiggle room in case costs go up, right?
Yeah, I've certainly tried to varying degrees of success. Sometimes you can't get blood out of the stone.
that's no success.
Yeah.
If it's communicated, though, and it was understood there are more costs should these conditions occur, and there's no more budget to fund the project, or you say we're now on a position where we can look at the scope. We're going to have to reduce the scope because you can't honour the agreement. So you can still control your costs, even though you might not be able to successfully have the project refunded with some sort of injection.
Yeah, and you could also
One of the,
protect yourself in your contract too, right? Like I know for ours, we do put terms in there where if it takes a certain amount of time and they still haven't gone back to us, and for example, some of our freelancers are no longer available for that project, and we have to hire someone else. Like that kind of covers our butt, you know? Because sometimes it happens, right? I mean, luckily it hasn't happened for us yet, but if it does, at least in the contract legally, we're protected.
Yeah. And sometimes you get dragged backwards through doors. Was it Jeff Bezos that talked about type 1 and type 2 doors? Where I think type 1 doors, anyone can make that decision because you can always come back through it. But the type 2 door, the door closes and locks behind you. It's a bit similar to our production process in a way. Sign off on the script, you move to storyboard. Sign off on the storyboard, you move to production and animation or shooting or whatever the case may be. Sometimes the client will say, well, that script's not right. Can we go back? Yeah, we can. So, but it's going to cost. So making sure that structure, so you can afford the new VO and you can afford to go back and re-edit it.
I like that.
Yeah, and you maybe get 2 reviews on script, you get 2 reviews on storyboard, you get 2 reviews on animation. Actually, you can have as many as you want, but this price covers 2. So put into your deal structure, what do additional reviews cost? Is it a fixed cost for that review? Do you quote for that review? Do you charge them a studio rate per hour? Make sure you cover yourself, because your income for that project's fixed, but your costs could vary.
Yeah, and essentially once you give them the whole process in terms of like what they can do in each role, the project in pre-production and post, they will understand, and they usually 90% of the time will work within those constraints. And like, for example, especially when you're working with animation projects, there are certain things that you have to communicate to them where it's like, hey, once we have this locked in, it's locked in. That's what we need to do before we move on to the next part of the process. And it's helped us in many situations where clients or leads have tried to kind of like bounce back and forth. You know, we had one project a few years ago where a lead was asking us, hey, we don't have the script, but can you start working on the animations already? Oh, yeah. And we were very, very strict with them, because we knew that if we gave in on that, they were going to start bouncing around constantly on us. And like at the end of the day, we didn't make much money from that project, but we still made something because we stuck to our particular process there. We always communicate. It's like, yes, we can, like you said, you can do more changes. We can go back and change the script, but because if you do that, it's going to cost more, because then it's going to have a ripple effect to other parts of the entire process. So it's just about being very, very clear with your clients about like what we expect from them and what they can expect from us to be able to deliver the project on time and by the deadline date, right?
So yeah, I'm curious to know what happened in that scenario when you explained, well, that's not our process and this is the reason why. Like, how did that conversation play out with your client?
To be honest with you, that client we shouldn't have taken on in the first place. Yeah. The flags were as red as they could be, but like we really just stuck to our guns with that one. And let me see, because to be honest with you, the communicating with that particular client was a bit of a headache, and it got to the point where we had to really set boundaries. But I would say in that particular situation, we really just stuck to our guns, and we said that's outside of the scope. But there were a lot of delays with that client, so it was like trying to deal with their delays, and then they were trying to tell us, oh, well, can you work with the new timelines? And we're like, no, like this is what we agreed to. So we didn't really budge too much, because by that point we had already determined this wasn't a client we would continue working with. So like we're just like, this is what we agreed to, and this is what we're going to stick too, right? If it was another client that we have a positive relationship with, we would obviously be more malleable, again, depending on if it doesn't exceed our costs or what we agreed to, or like, if it doesn't get to be too expensive for us or whatnot. But yeah.
And one thing to add to that, and it's not like we were not trying to accommodate them or anything like that. Like, don't get us wrong. Like, one thing we always try to do with any of our new clients or leads, like, we always try to give them a good experience. And we do our best to accommodate clients, and we're very upfront and very communicative in terms of what is doable. But as Dario mentioned, there were some red flags. We took a chance with this one.
We took a chance with this one, and it kind of bit us in the ass a little bit.
The problem with this particular client was that they weren't respecting a lot of our time in terms of like just our daily time. They were like, Dario would be getting calls randomly at 8 p.m. at night sometimes, just asking like, or it was like they were trying to demand things at very unreasonable hours, even. It was kind of like
what was happening? No, they were just calling or texting too much, and like I think early on I just got annoyed with it, so I just ignored it, and I think they got the message after a little bit. But it would be weird, like they would go, I don't want to dwell on it too much, but anyways, the communication was very, very bad with this particular client. But basically we stuck to our guns. If it was anyone else that we have a positive long-term relationship with, we would have been a bit more flexible, obviously. But yeah, I don't know, like maybe in your situations it might be a little different, and like that project wasn't a big one either, so it wasn't like we were willing to, hey, let's make this work type of thing.
Yeah, I think every project's different. Clients are different. They want to be taken on different journeys. And one of the things that my business partner and I think we're intuitively quite good at is figuring out where people are on this spectrum of, hey, just do it. You know what you're doing. Make it happen. We've got no idea. We trust you. And on the other end is, I've got a really clear vision, and we just want you to execute it and be very, involved. So where are they? Like, what sort of involvement do they want? And when I'm selling in a project, I try and ask a few questions that sort of will help me identify where they are on that scale. And what I've found is that people do want to have a different customer experience. So we've sort of developed ways to engage with our clients and take them through the production processes that marry up with what they want to do. And where we probably operate the best is somewhere in the middle. We like people to bring ideas, but hold onto them loosely. That generally delivers the best results. And I've got a ton of clients that really love the production process, and we have a lot of fun with it, and they want to get involved. My cousin's got a great voice. Can he be the voiceover artist for this? Send me his demo. Let's have a listen. Sometimes we'll dive into scripting stage together in a remote document for accessing it online, and just ripping it up together and working very collaboratively. Other clients wouldn't have a bar of that. They want to see the best you can do first shot, and then they'll go through 2 rounds of reviews, and it's more back and forth and a bit more clinical. So yeah, knowing where they want to be and being able to provide that experience for them is key, I think. There's not one good customer experience. It's matching it to the customer. That is the experience.
Exactly.
Because you want them to have
one of the best. Oh, sorry, I didn't realize you weren't done.
Sorry, I have a habit of pregnant pauses, and it can trip people up, and we'll end up talking over the top of one another. But
pregnant pauses. That's funny.
Yeah.
Oh, there you go.
I was just gonna say that to your point, like one thing that helps in identifying that with the clients is making sure they know what they want, and just asking the right questions sometimes to help them kind of arrive at that. And I think with that one particular client that we dealt with, one issue is that they weren't sure what they wanted for a very long time, and that's why there was probably a lot of that miscommunication. But we really wanted to kind of work with this particular client, to beef up the portfolio. And we were very lenient with a lot of things, but it's like there's only a certain amount of leniency you could have before a client starts to take advantage, and that's kind of like the dynamic that we ended up.
That's what was
going.
that's what was happening with that one.
Yeah,
But,
yeah. We were lenient in many ways, but they took advantage of it, and that's kind of when we had to put the boundaries there, right? And so all that to say, to help avoid working with clients or leads that have those particular issues, is being able to determine if they know what they want, or at least an idea of what they want. If someone comes to you, it's like with a video idea, but then they're not sure what they want, or they just keep changing their mind constantly, then there's something wrong in terms of like on their end, in terms of like what their goals are. They haven't figured that out, and they're trying to get you to kind of go on that journey with them to try to help them figure it out. So yeah, I like how you put it in terms of you have like every company needs to have their own kind of scale for like, would I be able to take on this client? Do I know what their needs and wants are? If so, then great, you can take them on. But if not, try to avoid jumping right into a working relationship with those leads, because if they don't know what they want, you might end up being like kind of the scapegoat for that as a result.
Yeah. Kyrill, your comment just flowed in from sort of what the client wants to the goals, and I think you really nailed that flow, because that's the goal is the why. Why do you want a video? Because actually no one needs a video. Controversial. Did I really say that? Yeah, I did.
Hot takes.
No. We're gonna mute this section out, guys.
Yeah, we don't want to lose money,
So what do I mean when I say nobody needs a video? There's something that they want to happen off the back of that. So, and it can be weird. They can be weird and wonderful things. Our local hospital had this problem. They installed all these new televisions over the beds, and none of the patients knew how to use this system. They couldn't flick it off onto the local news or whatever. And they were bailing up nurses left, right and centre, saying, can you help me with the television? And these nurses are running around trying to help doctors and save lives. It doesn't sound like they need a video. It sounds like they need their nurses to be freed up to do their job. That's what they needed. That was their goal. Video was just the vessel. And how did we do that? Well, we created an explained video that was preloaded onto television. So as soon as you load it up, this is how you use this is how you use the remote. And on the back of the remote, we put a QR code, which loaded up the video so they could watch the video and the TV and sort it out themselves. So yeah, what is the goal? Is it brand awareness? Is it, and hype? Is it a funnel thing? Are you trying to move people to your website to start wanting to pull information rather than just pushing it out there? Is it a post-sale video that's going to teach your existing customers how to get more out of your product or service? Like, what are you trying to achieve? You tell me what success is, and then we'll make the video.
I like
and
that.
that can become the North Star, and then the what starts to make more sense. Because if you're sort of running around with the what's and not the goal or the why, you're kind of lost. You don't know what's going to work.
It's good. We're nearing the 1 hour mark, but before we end off, I was gonna ask you like what is something you would want to tell yourself before you bought the company. We kind of touched on that earlier, so I guess let's change it up and let me instead ask, what is something you want to focus on for your company this year?
I'm really excited about a trend that I noticed is groundswell around multi-sensory marketing. There's even a company here in Melbourne called Brand Sense. Shout out to Brand Sense. I haven't met them yet, but they're creating aromas and scents for brands as part of that multi-sensory experience. But when we think of a brand, I don't know about you, but I often tend to think about a visual element, a logo, colours, fonts, words maybe. It's highly visual, and it should be. But brands aren't just visual. A big component, and I'm sort of seeing it anywhere between a point of 1% right through to 20% of a brand's equity might sit in the audio space. So we're thinking about, when I say the audio space, we're thinking about all the touch points where a customer might interact with your brand through sound or audio. And there's a lot of them. There's contact centers. What do they hear when they're transferred or put on hold or the contact center's shut? There's event spaces. There's workplaces. There's retail environments. There's apps. There's websites. There's also the audio component in the videos that you and I make. There's opportunities to do things with voice apps. The States and Canada are well ahead of Australia in that than we are. But moving beyond that, there's immersive audio, gaming. There's a bunch of things that we are well within our wheelhouse. So 77 next month will be launching sonic branding, and we'll move into not just a video production, but it'll be a video production and audio production or sonic branding company. And I'm really excited about that. I think that's a part. It's a smaller market, but it's a less competitive market and an overlooked section by a lot of companies, particularly here in Australia. Brands that I think are doing it really well are like MasterCard and Mercedes, but yeah, not happening in a really cohesive way. I mean, companies will have all these touch points, but there's no cohesion in what they're doing. There's no strategy. You want to sort of build that sense of emotional connection. You want brands to be able to hear the next evolution of the audio and know exactly what brand it is. In the same way that if I played you a James Bond, the latest James Bond soundtrack, and didn't tell you what it was, didn't introduce it, you'd know exactly what it was. You'd know the franchise because it's got some key elements that are common to every track that they've ever done. But yeah, there's a good opportunity to use that sort of methodology or blueprint as a way to treat brands in their sonic space. So that's a 2025 and onwards journey for 77 Productions.
Love it. That's a great goal to tackle because it's hard to find new ways for brands to stand out, and providing that other aspects in your service offerings is definitely going to help them quite a bit. I actually heard even when it comes to multi-sensory branding and marketing, I've heard that some companies are even experimenting with, smells in a way. And, and I was thinking about it like, oh, that's so true. Like if you smell a McDonald's burger, you already know what brand you're thinking of at that point as well. So it's like there's very particular smells even with certain companies and brands where you're going to be able to make certain distinctions, and, if you can master one certain kind of sensory aspect, like that's a good one definitely to do. And but yeah, and before we kind of go, we usually ask how you came up with the name for the company, but it's you kind of gave it away that you bought and packaged it right from the start, eh?
That's right. It happens to be my year of birth, 1977.
Oh, okay.
Which was just a chance, and I often wondered, and I was lucky enough to meet the founder. So it's actually had. I'm its third owner.
Oh,
it's had a life.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah.
Well, it was with the agency before, right, Kyrill?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tim Smith, the founder, I was lucky enough to meet. He's a great guy, and he told me the backstory for it. If you want to hear it.
Yeah, let's hear it.
Sure.
He was looking for something grand and ethereal, and he was into numerology, and apparently 777 is the number of God. Correct me if I'm wrong. and he thought, oh, it's a bit grandiose. We'll just scale it back. 77.
Too many sevens.
I wasn't expecting that, but that's the origin story. So there you go. You have it.
That's awesome.
Nice.
Did he tell you why he sold the company?
It was actually a post-production company that was servicing the media agency, and I think it was just an offer to do something, to get out and do something more in line. I think he went back to working in a digitally creative environment, in a more corporate environment. I think initially he intended to stay on, but it was good to reconnect with him and get his blessing. He feels like it's in good hands and it's going in a good direction. So
nice. It's interesting to hear how it was like one type of company before it went on with the ad agency, and the ad agency kind of grew it and turned it into its own kind of self-sustaining entity, essentially, and then it was ready to be shipped off. But I guess I think we did cover it, but like, did the ad agency, did they say why they wanted to cut it off again? I don't remember if we mentioned that.
I think they said it wasn't being profitable.
It was difficult to measure the profit because the revenue wasn't being attributed, either was the costs. I was sort of doing that in a pretty rough manner in the background. It's just a different economic pressure that they were under from a sort of external source. So
too much to focus on, like with an ad agency. Like there's so many different service offerings that you have, and if there's one part of the business that's not working as good as, like, say, other parts, it's probably easier for them to just, chop it off and then just focus all the other resources into the aspects of the business that are making money. It makes sense. That's why video production companies are not all of us are also doing website design, other marketing aspects or stuff like that, because it's difficult for people to be able to do everything, right?
Yeah, that's right. Even with the whole video land, it doesn't feel very niche when you look at, typography, motion graphics, 2D rig characters, shooting, immersive technology, AR, VR, XR. So it's a big space to play in itself. So I think it deserves its own bucket.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I think that's a good point to end this. So guys, if you want to follow Anthony, go to 77, so the numbers, productions.com.au, because he's Australian. And then if you want to follow him on Instagram, where's your Instagram here? Is it just 77 Productions?
Yes, I think so. Yep. Double check that.
Okay. Yeah, we're gonna double check that quickly.
I feel like we always never know the exact handle, right?
You gotta add it on your website. It would have been easier to find.
It's 77.productions on Instagram.
Okay. TikTok as well? Are you on there too?
No, TikTok. What happened? Couldn't cover it.
I guess not. Well, you got to get on there.
What's happening in Canada with TikTok? Is that still a thing?
Oh, here it is.
Here it is. Yeah. I think I thought they unbanned it in the States. I'm not sure.
They got a
I'm not too
reprieve,
sure.
do they?
I think they got a bit more time.
We'll yeah. They got a couple months until it's gone, but that's a whole separate episode we can dive into. But
All right, speaking with
we
you,
really
thanks for the
appreciate
opportunity
it,
to be on your podcast.
Thank you.
Good talking to you both.
Great chatting with
Thank
you as well. Thank you. Thanks for listening to this episode of Creatives Grab Coffee. Please make sure to follow and engage with us on Instagram, TikTok, LinkedIn, YouTube, and your favorite podcast app.
Creatives Grab Coffee is created by Labs Productions, a video production company based in Toronto, Canada.
Creatives Grab Coffee is also sponsored by...
My name is Miran. Welcome to Canada Film Equipment. We are a boutique rental house based in Toronto. We We are here to help you guys out with all production sizes. Feel free to contact us to get a quote if you are a production house and you're looking for lighting, camera packages, or lighting and grid fan packages. You can see our contact information in the link below. We are more than happy to help you guys out. Make sure you follow and subscribe to creativesgrabcoffee.com. Thank you.
Hey, what's up, everybody? I'm Matt. Welcome to Audio Process. We are a boutique audio company doing location sound, sound design, post-sound, ADR, Foley. We service equipment. We do all your audio needs here in Toronto. We got you covered. Come on down, audioprocess.ca. Don't forget to like, follow, subscribe, and all of the other internet things to creativesgrabcoffee.com. They'll be waiting for you. I'll be waiting for you, and we're all going to have a real good time.
Thanks for listening, and we'll see you on the next one.